Hello everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We've reached another Friday, so of course I have another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. Now, we have reached the last week of our month dedicated to the healing powers of comedy, and this week we are setting our sights on a couple of recommendations all about comedic duos. Now, the idea of a comedic duo has been popular pretty much regardless of what medium we're talking about, whether it be literature, radio, television, or, of course, film. And the comedic duo in film has been popular pretty much since film's inception. You've got comedic duos from the early days of film, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, who of course crossed over from vaudeville and radio. Then you have duos like Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. You've got Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi in the Blues Brothers, Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder in their myriad films. You've got Mike Myers, Dana Carvey in Wayne's World. The list just goes on and on and on. Some of the duos started in different mediums. Some of the duos were originally comics. Some of them were actors. Some of them, it just, where things started, it doesn't really seem to matter. It's that special spark, the chemistry that two people sometimes have between one another that just is like a comic explosion. Sometimes it's like the straight man and funny man concept where one sort of is significantly less the punchline of the joke, and other times they're both just wacky and zany and it just somehow manages to gel. There's no set of rules for what makes any of this work. That's the whole thing. That's what makes these iconic duos so special, because it's something that just happens. It's like magic. And today's recommendations, with all of the ones that I already mentioned, which of course are all 100% worth watching. Anything that stars all of those duos, you should absolutely check out if you're looking for really brilliant comedy. So with all of those already mentioned, what two films am I going to mention today? Well, stay tuned. As always, today's recs are available via our CLEVNET and our digital video services. And they are available entirely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card. So without any further ado, let's get to the recs. Okay, my first recommendation for today is available via DVD and Blu-ray via our CLEVNET service, and that is 2013's The Heat. So very quick rundown. The Heat is a buddy cop movie starring Sandra Bullock as FBI agent Sarah Ashburn and Melissa McCarthy as Boston police detective Shannon Mullins. These two are ridiculously far apart as far as personality goes, the most disparate kinds of personalities you could get. Plus, their approach to crime solving and crime fighting, also polar opposites. And that leads to 2 hours of absolute ridiculousness and awesomeness, to be perfectly honest. This movie is phenomenal. As far as buddy cop movies go, this is one of my honest to God favorites. And there are a lot of buddy cop comedies out there. So, like I said, one of my favorite movies. A couple of more interesting academic checkpoints. Comedic duos in film have throughout the years primarily focused on male-male duos. We've recently seen more and more female comics and female performers making some absolutely brilliant movies. But before then, there weren't a ton, and certainly not as mainstream or lauded as the male comic duos. In other medium, we definitely saw them. Television, of course, radio, but really there was this huge dearth for a large swath of film's history. And now I love the films that are really exploring that, because it is a different dynamic, and there are similarities and differences that you can really appreciate. And I absolutely love The Heat as an example of that. In addition to featuring a female duo, it's a buddy cop film. Buddy cop films also just tend to be a couple of guys. running around solving crime. And again, I love the spin of the traditional. I love being able to see how a different dynamic can fill these roles. And again, the Heat just checks so many boxes. And Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy make this a perfect film. I mean, I've been a big fan of both for a very long time. Sandra Bullock has been one of my kind of go-to comic actresses for years and years now. I mean, whether we're talking about her light, fluffy rom-coms like While You Were Sleeping, or we're talking, her star vehicles like Miss Congeniality, she's got a really good comedic timing. And one of the things that's great about her as the straight woman in the duo is that she's not just like a cardboard cutout. She's not a sounding board for Melissa McCarthy's more zany style of comedy. The magic of Bullock is that she can make these little mundane, tiny quirks absolutely hilarious. She has her own sense of what's funny, and her character definitely is kind of hilarious in a lot of ways. Her character is also kind of tragic in a lot of ways too, but the fact that she's able to spin it the way she does and the way that you can enjoy the character so much says a lot about Bullock's performance in this. So, absolutely adore her portrayal of Sarah Ashburn. I think she does a fantastic job. She definitely is more of the straight man in the duo that we're talking about, but she is able to make that so much more than just, again, some sort of sounding board for the funnier member of the duo. And then Melissa McCarthy, of course, she blew up after Bridesmaids, which is directed by Paul Feig, who also directed The Heat. She was, I mean, her popularity has not waned since Bridesmaids, but I knew her even before then when she was playing a character named Suki in Gilmore Girls. Much different kind of performance than we see in the vast majority of her work today. Very definitely funny and silly and quirky, but far removed from this outlandish ridiculousness. She was definitely playing a secondary character, no doubt about that, but she still was warm and fluffy, and she knew how to imbue that character with loads of humor and just appeal. So since then, of course, she's just kind of a tour de force when it comes to outrageous comedy. And you know there's so the funny guy is always just, there's so much about that particular character in the duo, the comic duo, you know, where it's almost harder to make yourself an individual when you can go so explosively out there, you know, and the fact that she is so good at this kind of character, it just speaks like volumes about her skill as a comedian. Um, So yeah, she's fantastic in this. And together their chemistry is just so perfect. They're able to play off one another. And because the characters are the way they are, they have a really, really interesting backstory in this, each of them as individuals, and it's quite layered. Yes, it's laugh out loud funny 90% of the time, but there's those little elements of tragedy within the comedy that make it something different, that make it a little bit elevated, I think. So yes, we are talking about an outrageous buddy cop comedy, but there's also a great deal of heart to it. Definitely an arc to both characters, and the acting is just really, really solid. And comedy's hard. Comedy's really hard to do well, and these two just really have it. The overall storyline is really fast paced. It's a lot of fun. You've got a ton of excellent, excellent secondary characters and actors in here. You've got some little cameos, especially if you're familiar with Feig's other work. He tends to like working with certain actors, and so he casts them over and over and over again. And if you like Feig's work, like, say, Bridesmaids, The Spy, you will absolutely love The Heat. If you're looking for something that has a really brilliant duo that will make you laugh out loud, but also sort of, make you really appreciate generosity of spirit these two characters also seem to have. It's hidden under layers of all kinds of complications, but it's there. Definitely check out The Heat. It's one of those comedies that I wasn't expecting to love as much as I did, and I watched it back in 2013 in the movie theater, and I watched it periodically throughout the years, and I still really, really enjoy it even 10 years down the line. So if you're looking for something funny, can't go wrong with this one. Again, available on DVD and Blu-ray, 2013's The Heat. It's a must watch. Okay, so the other film that I'm recommending this week is also available on DVD and Blu-ray, and that is 2004's Shaun of the Dead. Okay, so if you follow this video series, you know that last week I did do a whole recommendation list about horror comedies. I struggled for quite some time on whether or not to include this one last week, but at the end of the day, for me, Shaun of the Dead is much more of a comedic duo film than it is a comedy horror. And let me explain. Basic overview of Shaun of the Dead. We've got Shaun. I hesitate to use the word loser, but that's definitely the word that's frequently used when I read the descriptions of him. He's just this 30-year-old guy who doesn't have a whole lot of focus or drive or wherewithal to do anything, but he is very much, a nice guy. He's definitely not a bad character. He lives in a flat with his best friend, Ed, and their friend, Pete, but it's definitely Shaun and Ed. It has always been Shaun and Ed. Ed is definitely something of a loser. He is definitely shiftless, aimless, and he has some strong ties to bad things, but not a bad guy per se. Also, he very definitely loves Shaun. Shaun and Ed are absolutely, bros till the end, ride or die. They are best friends. And this movie is one that works so well, both because of that element and because the two have such great chemistry. And then also from a meta standpoint, the two guys who play Shaun and Ed, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, respectively, are also best friends, have frequently described themselves as platonic life partners, lived together for years and years and years. And in a lot of ways, their friendship mirrors a lot of moments within this particular movie. And if you dive into like the behind the scenes kinds of clips you might find, they definitely talk about that a lot. So anyway, Shaun, this 30-year-old aimless dude, has just broken up with his girlfriend. She got upset with him because he was very lackadaisical about their third anniversary. He didn't really plan well. I mean, nothing is of import to Shaun. He's happy with just pretty much doing nothing. And at the beginning of the film, we've got this sort of aimless guy just going about his day, sad about his lost girlfriend, but it is what it is. And then the zombie apocalypse hits. And Shaun has to figure out how to be a man of action. And while we're dealing with zombies and like dead things trying to come kill them, we're also dealing with the nature of his relationship with Ed, the nature of his relationship with his ex-girlfriend, who he's desperately trying to get to rescue, the nature of his relationship with his mother and his stepfather. I mean, it's one of those movies that's about so much more than just like a zombie apocalypse. It's really the zombies are the last part of the story, to be honest. And it works so well, and it is so hilarious. This is like quintessential British comedy in here, all over the place, and it's just so much fun. If you are a horror genre person, if you do like zombie movies, you 100% have to watch this, simply because it plays off of all those zombie movie tropes unbelievably well. If you've not seen it before, there will be so many like surprisingly laugh out loud moments. I still remember when I first watched this, I was laughing hysterically through the vast majority of this movie, simply because the writer, Edgar Wright, he's also the director, is also clearly such a big fan of zombie movies and is able to like point out all of these ridiculous tropes and he pokes fun at them here, but also uses them. And they're very effectively done, both for like the scares, but also like just the laugh out loud moments of it all. Um, and throughout the entire film, really the chemistry between Peg and Frost as Shaun and Ed is just what drives the film forward. You know, they're utterly ridiculous characters, and I absolutely adore the fact that they're at least in part based on Peg and Frost in real life, because these two guys are just so funny. They're so funny. And it's not, again, like your typical straight man funny guy pairing. It really isn't. Of course, I would say if you were going to pick like the funny guy, it would be Frost, but Simon Pegg is just as funny. He's definitely not just a cardboard cutout for Frost to throw his comic bits at. They're both hilarious in their own ways, and it's so effective. It really really is, the two of them together. Um, if you get the chance, 100% you should watch a couple of interviews that they do, just because the two of them are so funny in real life and the way that they interact there as well. And it just, again, adds that extra layer to the joke. So, as I was mentioning, Edgar Wright both directed and wrote this with Simon Pegg, actually. And Wright has gone through and done a ton of absolutely hilarious movies. He did Hot Fuzz, This Is the End. Most recently did a very, very big departure from his other films, The Last Night in Soho, also a fantastically interesting movie. But I mean, he does really excellent work within this like the whole like outrageous British comedy genre, and I love what he's done. And Shaun of the Dead really kind of kicked it off for me. This is the first film that I think I saw of Wright's work, and I've watched all of the others, and I always enjoy them. He does have a stable of performers that he works with, and if you watch this, you will know at least a couple of them that are pretty much in everything he does from film to film to film, and they're always great. So if you happen to like British humor, if you like zombie films, if you don't like zombie films, that part doesn't really matter. If you are looking for something that has a rather bizarre amount of heart to it as well, you absolutely have to check out Shaun of the Dead. Again, it's available on both DVD and Blu-ray through our CLEVNET services, and this is 100% a must watch. Okay, so those were my 2 recommendations for comedy duos this week. There are tons of other films out there, and if you happen to have a favorite comedic duo that you want to recommend, please comment with that below. Definitely always looking for more movies to watch. If you have any recommendations for themes to follow through on next month or at any time, please, I'm definitely always looking for help and recommendations on that point. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I love putting these together. These 2 movies are a couple of my absolute favorites in general. So it was delightful to work on this week's project. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.